Panel representing the government is the Liberal member for Hume and Minister for Energy and Emissions Reduction, Angus Taylor. Good morning, Angus.
Good morning, Stephen.
And David Smith is the Labor member for Bean. G'day, David.
Morning, Stephen.
Angus, I'll start with you. Energy prices going up here in the ACT. The ACT government insists it's got nothing to do with their renewable energy policy, despite the fact that the price rise is because of feed-in tariffs for solar energy.
Well, that's absolutely what it's about. Look, we're seeing, on average across Australia, an 11% reduction in retail prices in the last year. The one place that's bucking the trend is the ACT, where we're seeing a 12% increase because of contracts that were entered into a number of years ago that I was strongly opposed to at the time. They were set at too high a price, and consumers are paying the price. I mean, this is what happens when you get these crazy policies that are done because they're considered by the state government to be popular, and the ACT is sadly now paying the price for that, and I hope that the lessons are being learned about entering into those sorts of ridiculous contracts.
David, federal Labor has a risk of going down this similar road. I mean, the more sensible members on your side of the House are obviously, understand that we have to move towards renewable energy, but there's got to be a transition period and we've got to be sensible about it. But there's a risk that if we go too woke, we'll go broke.
Stephen, I think the issue here, as Angus has alluded to, is actually relates to contracts that were signed some years ago. So I think it's pretty easy to get overexcited about it. The truth is that ACT prices are still incredibly competitive with prices around the country. And look, for those in need here in the ACT, the government has done the right thing and announced rebates.
Angus, I want to stay on the energy thing for a moment. Australia and Germany are now going to invest in new hydrogen initiatives as part of our ambition to develop the cheapest, cleanest hydrogen in the world. The government is also expanding the Australian Renewable Energy Agency to fund carbon capture and storage. When are we going to be fair income and start talking about nuclear in a real way?
Well, when the Labor Party is prepared to actually have a serious discussion about it. I mean, we've made very clear in our technology investment roadmap that the emerging nuclear technology, small modular reactors, is something we're looking at very closely. But at the end of the day, it's an emerging technology. But the one thing that's blocked nuclear throughout Australian history has been scare campaigns, and if Labor's not prepared to work with us, it's too easy to stop this. So, there are sensible people within the Labor Party, I know, who are supportive of going down this path, but right now we don't have that bipartisanship, and that would be critical to getting an outcome.
Dave, I mean, that's a bit of a cop-out, isn't it? I mean, it's all well and good for, and I agree with Angus that, Labor, some members of the Labor Party have been obstructionists on this, but the government should show some leadership, shouldn't they?
No, completely. It's why are they in government? It's extraordinary, Stephen, how often somehow particular things are a consequence of Labor's position. Last time I looked, I might have hoped that we had a majority in the House of Representatives, but we still don't.
Wishful thinking, mate. I do want to stay with you for a moment. This National Archives thing, I think, is a national travesty. For the sake of $70 million, we could lose some of our most important memories. And I think from a Conservative government's perspective, I mean, as Conservatives, we're supposed to be the people that want to conserve these type of things, whereas Amanda Stoker's been almost flippant about it. You've signed up with these membership payments, but you've kind of tied this into the Australian War Memorial thing. Aren't they two separate things?
Well, Stephen, at the end of the day, there are opportunity costs and there are choices that government make. I think, to be brutally honest, the government could fund all these things appropriately. So they shouldn't necessarily be at the cost of each other. But if it does come down to the amount of money that the government's willing to put into the ACT, there were some pretty reasonable alternative approaches to the War Memorial that would have allowed us to easily resource not just the National Archives, but a number of our other critical institutions that are struggling with cuts to their resources as well.
Angus, one of the things David's been critical of is the funding of the National Capital Authority and its ability to actually assess these things. But when it comes to the War Memorial, and I say this time and time again, it's our most important cultural institution. A lot of whilst there were 600 submissions, most of them against, a lot of it was based on misinformation. I mean, it wouldn't matter how much you funded the NCA, they've still got to basically wade through BS to come to the decision.
Yeah, that's right. And look, I'm one of the greatest supporters of the War Memorial and the National Archive. Look, we've just given $10 million to support the digitisation of Second World War service records through the National Archive, and we have to make sure it's properly funded, and that's something I've been strong on for many years, as with the War Memorial. I mean, these are important institutions. We've got to make sure they're run effectively and efficiently. We don't want to be wasting money. Taxpayers' money needs to be treated with the greatest of respect. But it is important we keep these things funded, and it is also important that we treat them as national treasures, which is as they are.
Dave, I just want to touch on that for a moment, because a lot of the, I've read a lot of the reports on this, and, one person suggesting they're going to turn the War Memorial into a theme park, and others saying, the impression is that the original building is going to get torn down, where that is so far from the truth, it's not funny.
Look, and you're right, Stephen. I think my concern, as you're probably aware, is that there were other options which could have explored the use of the Treelorp Resource Centre out at Mitchell quite effectively to particularly house bigger items. So there's a way where you could actually support some much-needed change to the War Memorial. I think there is change needed there, but at the same time actually come up with an approach that was actually more cost-effective and didn't necessarily require the demolition of Anzac Hall.
Yeah, this is a discussion we could have. We could spend hours on this. I want to move on, though. Angus, this decision on this Tamil family from Biloela that are in detention on Christmas Island, where suggestions that Alex Hawke might step in and use his discretionary powers here. Are we letting the emotion of the fact that they have two daughters get in the way of the fact that at every stage along the way, this family have not met the legal requirements to remain in Australia?
Look, at the end of the day, these are difficult decisions, and they've been around for a long while. Labor and the Greens will constantly want to let everybody in, and this has been the great history of this issue for a long period of time, that they've been inclined to do that. We always seek to strike a balance between our commitment to strong border protection, which is obviously a hugely important commitment given the 1,200 deaths we saw at sea when Labor was last in government, with an appropriate level of compassion in circumstances which are appropriate. Now, we've got to get that balance right, because what we don't want to do is open up the trade in people smuggling, and that would be a disaster for this country, as it has been in the past. And getting that balance right, I'm very confident Alex Hawke will do exactly that.
Dave, I want to go one step further than that, and I'm not so concerned about the opening the floodgates to people smugglers, but certainly if we make a decision here, and we all feel compassion for the two little girls, but what message does it send to other asylum seekers who are on temporary visas who, again, don't qualify to remain in Australia, from then using this as a precedent if we do make a decision here?
So Stephen, there's ministerial intervention in hundreds and hundreds of cases every year based upon the particular facts of those cases. And I'll tell you the precedent that we'll set here is that where a mum and dad are wanted and valued as members of this regional community here in Biloela, and where their children are born here in this country, then, that's what the public want. They want that family to have an opportunity to live their lives here in Australia.
I'll finish off, Dave, with you. You're taking part in your 7th Vinnies CEO Sleepout at the Arboretum. You've gone mad. Sleeping at the Arboretum in this weather, geez.
I am Canberra born and bred, Stephen, and it's going to be very, very cold. I think the option was there to either sleep there, or I think some businesses that are taking part from Fish Week are also doing a bit of a sleep out there. But look, Vinnies do amazing work right across our region. I'm hoping, Stephen, there'll come a day where I don't have to front up for another sleep out.
Yeah, I agree with you. Angus, can we rope you in too?
I've had lots of nights out under the stars in this region over my lifetime, but it won't be that one. But good on you, David, for doing that. Well done.
Good on you, Angus. Thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks, Steve.
And Dave Smith, good on you.
Thanks, Stephen.
Dave Smith, the member for Bean, and Angus Taylor, the member for Hume. It is